Since the ancient Greeks, the study of money has been an important part of economics, but it was only in the 20th century that economists developed what is now referred to as macroeconomics, or aggregate economic analysis. Today, the study of money and monetary systems is usually paired with this type of economics. In this segment, we will consider the accounting framework developed in the 1930s for aggregate economic analysis. It is the analytical framework for Keynesian macroeconomics, named for the famous economist John Maynard Keynes. Gross domestic product, GDP, is a measure of total production of output and of total income for a nation's economy. Before considering how GDP is both output and income, let's define it precisely. Nominal GDP is the total market value of newly produced final goods and services within a country over the course of a year. In 2015, nominal GDP for the United States was $17.9 trillion. China's was $10 trillion, and Canada's was $1.55 trillion. Keep these three countries and their GDP in mind. We will return to them after examining the features of GDP in more detail. First, GDP is newly produced goods and services. So if a brand new car is sold for $30,000, this goes into GDP. But if a used car sells for $30,000, this does not go into GDP. If the used car is sold by an automobile dealer, only the dealer's markup goes into GDP. Second, GDP is the value of new final products in contrast with intermediate products. The new automobile is a final product. The value of the tires on the car, an intermediate product, is included in the price of the car. To add them again would be double counting. Third, GDP does not include transfer payments, such as gifts, because nothing is produced. It also does not include loans. Fourth, nominal GDP is measured in current prices. So if the same new car sells for $32,000 rather than $32,000 goes into GDP. Inflation increases GDP even if no more is produced, and deflation reduces GDP even if no less is produced. To compare GDP in different years, we adjust the data to remove the effects of inflation or deflation. The adjustment converts nominal GDP into real GDP. This brings us back to the GDP of the US, China, and Canada. Notice that GDP for all three is expressed in US dollars. To compare GDP across countries, we use exchange rates to convert to a common currency. This is usually the US dollar. Let's return to the fact that GDP represents both the value of production and the value of income. It represents both because production generates income for owners of resources used in the production. For example, the $30,000 price of the new car is paid out to workers, owners of the automobile company, and others who provide resources used in the car's production. The market value of production is the same as the market value of incomes. One final point. Thus far, we have not considered how many people are involved in the production that generates GDP. This is accounted for in GDP per capita. So, for instance, while China's GDP is more than 6 times Canada's, China's per capita GDP is only $14,100, while Canada's is $45,600. Canadians are 3 times more productive than the Chinese. Because of the prominence of GDP as a measure of macroeconomic performance, it is important to keep in mind what is included in the measure and what is not. You should also be aware that GDP is neither a complete measure of macroeconomic performance nor an adequate measure of well-being.